On the morning of the 22th, the company president called me into his office and abruptly told me, "You're fired. Today is your last day." I was speechless. The timing couldn't have been worse. It was the day we had to pay our suppliers. Normally, we made bank transfers for the long-term suppliers, but I also handled some of the payments personally by visiting them. Still in shock, I stood there as he added, "You seem like you're ready to go home. I'm giving you the rest of the day off, just for you. Leave quickly." Before I could say a word, he pushed me out of the office, and the door slammed shut behind me. I was stunned, unsure of how to respond or even where to start. My name is Ember. I joined this small, family-run paving company right after finishing high school, and for the past 12 years, I've been working in clerical roles. Until today, that is. We had about 22 employees, and for most of my time here, things were really good. When the current chairman was still the president, the company felt like a second home. It was a comfortable place to work. The chairman, now retired, was deeply involved with the younger staff, and his wife, Delaney, would often come in to help with various tasks. That was before he got sick and had to step away. Their daughter, Sienna, was very skilled in both the field and office work, and her husband was the site manager. The workers trusted him, and even though Sienna and her husband were part of the founding family, they were always down to earth and respectful. They treated everyone like equals. If only things had stayed that way, life would have been perfect. But reality doesn't always follow our wishes. Late last year, during a routine company health screening, the chairman was diagnosed with cancer. He decided it was time to step down and focus on his health, and he appointed Sienna's husband, the site manager, as the next president. Everyone agreed it was the best decision. We all wanted the chairman to concentrate on his treatment and hoped for his full recovery. However, something unexpected happened. Out of nowhere, the chairman's oldest son, Merrick, showed up with his family. No one had seen him in years, and many of us didn't even know he existed. It turns out Merrick had been disowned by his parents about 32 years ago, and his name had never come up at work. From what the older employees told me, Merrick had been a troublemaker when he was younger. He was frequently in trouble with the law, and each time he got arrested or caused problems, his parents would have to apologize on his behalf. After dropping out of high school, he got involved in shady businesses like multi-level marketing and scams. That's when the chairman finally had enough and cut ties with him. Despite being out of their lives for decades, Merrick showed up one day, begging for forgiveness. "Dad, I've changed. Please give me another chance," he said. It was quite a scene, as our office is small, and the president's office is right next to the clerical room where I work. I overheard everything. Merrick pleaded to be allowed to work at the company, but after everything I'd heard about him, I wasn't sure if he had really changed. Still, the chairman was insistent. "I apologize to everyone," he said, addressing the staff. "But I ask you to give Merrick another chance." Sienna and the older employees, who knew about Merrick's troubled past, weren't exactly thrilled, but they didn't want to go against the chairman's heartfelt request. So, Merrick and his family moved into the annex at the chairman's house. Merrick started working at the company, and his wife took over household duties for the chairman and Delaney. Their daughter, who seemed to be a college student, visited the company only once. The chairman believed that Merrick had faced enough struggles in life to have turned over a new leaf, and Delaney was delighted to have him back in the family. She kept talking about how they were all going to rebuild the company together. But soon after, Merrick made a bold and divisive statement. "I'm the eldest son, so I should be the next president," he declared. This created immediate tension between him, Sienna, and her husband. Though Merrick acted like he was working hard in front of the chairman, it became clear to the rest of us that he was doing next to nothing. He frequently made belittling comments, saying things like, "Physical labor is for the workers. You're all just worker ants. Keep your heads down and get on with it." Naturally, this attitude made him deeply unpopular with the staff. Some of the younger employees even approached the chairman directly, saying, "We can't work in these conditions." Despite the complaints, both the chairman and Delaney tried to smooth things over, pleading with the staff to be patient. "We'll talk to Merrick," they promised. "Please try to understand the bigger picture." But their efforts weren't enough. 3 months ago, The chairman's cancer worsened, and he had to be hospitalized. At that point, Merrick made another bold move. "I am the president now," he announced, even though most of us still believed Sienna's husband was supposed to take over. While some employees tried to convince the chairman and Delaney to stick to their original plan, they ultimately sided with Merrick, their biological son. This decision stirred up resentment among the staff, many of whom felt that parental love had clouded their judgment. The once pleasant and cooperative atmosphere at the company started to shift. Sienna and her husband took on more responsibility behind the scenes, trying to keep things running smoothly, while I was left to handle all the administrative tasks on my own. Where I once shared the workload with Delaney and Sienna, now I often found myself working late into the night, sometimes not leaving the office until after midnight. Meanwhile, Merrick showed little interest in the administrative side of things. He spent his days at bars, betting on horses and gambling. The final straw for me came over an issue with company expenses. Merrick had been using the company's credit card for personal expenses, and I had looked the other way for a while. But one day, the charge was too much to ignore. With a heavy heart, I handed the receipt back to him. "I can't approve this," I said. "Why not?" he demanded. "This is for your wife's corrective underwear," I explained. "It's not a business expense, so I can't approve it." His face turned red with anger. "Don't argue with me," he snapped. "She's the president's wife. It's only right that she dresses well. This is a legitimate business expense." But I stood my ground. "No, that's not how it works," I replied. "Your wife's underwear can't be expensed as a business cost." I stammered, trying to wrap my head around how the president could justify spending $8,000 on his wife's corrective underwear, and what he said next left me even more baffled. "Then let's make selling corrective underwear our new business venture. We'll categorize it as inventory so it counts as an expense," he suggested, grinning as if he had come up with a brilliant idea. I was completely at a loss for words. "We're a paving company," I managed to say, trying to reason with him. "So what? We can just threaten clients. If they don't buy from us, we'll cancel their contracts. Everyone will buy. It's easy money," he said, laughing at his own absurd idea. $44,000 for one, $8,000 for a set. His laughter echoed in the office, but all I felt was horror. "That's completely unethical. It'll destroy our company's credibility," I snapped, no longer able to hide my frustration. From that moment, I became the president's main target. Day after day, I endured his belittling comments and condescending attitude. He would find any excuse to criticize my work, making every day more unbearable. There were many times I wanted to quit, but my loyalty to the chairman, who had always treated me kindly, and my concern for my colleagues kept me hanging on. I knew the team would struggle if I left suddenly, and to be honest, I couldn't afford to be without a job overnight. So, I decided to tough it out, waiting for the right moment to move on. Little did I know that decision would soon be taken out of my hands. When I was unexpectedly fired, I knew it would cause chaos for our clients if I just walked away. Taking a deep breath, I mustered the courage to confront the president. "I can't do this. I can't leave without proper notice or a handover. Even your daughter won't be able to handle all the work alone. And today is the day we need to make payments," I said, speaking as quickly as possible before he could interrupt. Just as I expected, his face turned bright red with anger. "Shut up. I told you to resign because my daughter is joining the company. Today is your last day. As for the payments, let them wait until they come to collect it. There's no need to pay up front." His tone was dismissive, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Isn't it normal to pay for something once you buy it?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. I explained the situation as clearly as possible, as if I were speaking to a child. But his response was so irrational, I started questioning if he was thinking clearly at all. "If that's the case, just threaten to switch suppliers," he sneered. "Tell them we won't pay this time, so they should give it to us for free." I was stunned. How could he not see how wrong this was? "You're completely useless," he spat at me. "My daughter has a college degree. She can handle the office work just fine. As family, she won't question my expenses like you do. You're all talk and no action. We don't need someone like you. Leave now." It was obvious now. He wanted his daughter to take over so he could continue abusing the company's funds for personal use without being questioned. Well, if that's how you feel, I won't regret leaving, I said, my voice calm but tired. There was no point in arguing any further. My patience had worn thin. I quickly gathered my belongings, left the office, and felt a pang of guilt for the clients I was leaving behind. Before I fully walked away, I decided to call Sienna. Even though I knew she and Delaney were occupied with the chairman's health, I felt this situation was urgent. I explained everything to Sienna, hoping she could manage the mess I was leaving behind. After leaving the company, I found myself suddenly with nothing to do. Being fired without notice clearly violated labor laws, and I knew that if I reported this to the Labor Standards Office, the company would be in big trouble. Since the company was part of a middle-market payment system, I could claim severance pay and a month's salary through government support. There was no rush. I had up to 5 years to apply, and the Labor Standards Office had a 2-year statute of limitations on filing complaints. With my professional mindset, I immediately started planning the necessary steps for my exit and retirement. After working overtime and weekends for so long, I finally had some time to myself. I decided to take it easy for a week and planned a refreshing day trip to the beach to clear my head. After enjoying a peaceful day by the ocean, I checked my phone and saw several missed calls, emails, and voicemails. Sienna's email caught my eye. It read, "The payment process went smoothly. Everything is in order." I felt a wave of relief. Even though my departure had been sudden and ugly, at least the payments had been handled. Next, I listened to a voicemail from the company. It was the president. His voice panicked. "Hey, what's going on? They're saying I'm not the real president. Did you know about this? Explain yourself." I chuckled at his confusion and continued scrolling through my messages. Among them was a message from the chairman himself, asking me to come to the hospital. Without hesitation, I made my way there. When I arrived at the hospital that evening, I found Delaney, Sienna, and the president already there. The chairman, lying in his bed, greeted me with a weary smile. "Ember, I'm truly sorry for my foolish son," he said softly. "What's going on? Why are they saying I'm not the president?" Merrick demanded arrogantly, clearly still unaware of the situation. The chairman quickly shut him down. "Be quiet," he ordered sternly. It turned out that right after I called Sienna, she immediately informed the chairman and Delaney. As soon as the chairman heard the news, he reached out to Merrick, who had been acting as the company's president, and asked him, "Do you really not know what's going on?" The truth was finally coming to light. I explained calmly, "Merrick, you never had any legal authority. Your title as president was just that, a title. In business, the president's role is a position within the company, but it's the representative director who holds the legal responsibility for the company's actions." Merrick stood there, dumbfounded, as the reality of the situation sank in. Externally, the role of a representative director is much more formal and requires specific legal steps to change. While we could change the title of president informally within the company, altering the legal status of the representative director is a complex process. That's why, despite Merrick's position as president, he never had the legal authority he thought he did. When Merrick was made president 3 months ago, there was strong opposition from Sienna, the site manager, and other veteran employees. That's when I came up with a plan. Merrick could serve as a figurehead president, while the chairman would remain the legally responsible representative director. I knew the ins and outs of company law, and I suggested that if Merrick proved himself worthy and earned the respect of the staff, we could then begin the legal process to formalize his role as president. But if Merrick failed, we could either remove him or consider closing the company altogether while Sienna and the site manager prepared to launch a new venture. Sienna was skeptical that Merrick could ever change, but the chairman and Delaney continued to believe in him, at least until Merrick unfairly fired me, which seemed to open their eyes to his flaws. "You've always needed to understand the importance of caring for your employees if you want to be a leader," the chairman said, repeating advice he had given Merrick countless times. Merrick, however, remained defiant. "Can't we just take care of the procedures now?" he asked, as if it were a simple fix. "No, it's not that easy," the chairman explained. "Our company offers shares to employees who want them. Many employees own stock, including Ember, who holds 10%. She's a major shareholder. We can't ignore her opinion, and the other shareholders won't support you either. As the president began to grasp the seriousness of the situation, his face went pale.
What?
I don't have any shares. I was planning to pass my shares to you once you'd proven yourself as a capable president, the chairman said, his voice filled with disappointment. Were you only interested in my wealth, thinking I wouldn't be around much longer? He slumped in despair, while Merricks stood silently, visibly upset. Still, Merrick refused to back down. I'm the eldest son. What's wrong with taking what's rightfully mine? The company belongs to me, he argued, clearly unable to see past his sense of entitlement. I can't forgive you any longer, the chairman responded, his tone firm and final. As the representative director, I bear full responsibility for this company, and as a shareholder, I have the right to call for a meeting to propose your removal. I supported the chairman's decision, stating firmly, Mr. President, Ember is right. No one will support you now. For the first time, Merrick realized just how deep the trouble ran. You mean I could actually be fired? His voice wavered with disbelief. You were just a clerk before, the chairman reminded him. Ember was the only one who gave you a chance, and now you've lost even that. Delaney, who had stayed silent during most of the exchange, finally spoke up. Ember, I owe you a sincere apology, she said, turning toward me. I regret the trouble I caused by letting my love for my son cloud my judgment. Please tell me what you want to do next. Without hesitation, I addressed Merrick directly. Mr. President, I no longer wish to work under your leadership, so I am resigning effective immediately. However, I expect to receive my severance pay along with 1 month's salary, including unpaid overtime and holiday pay. As a shareholder, I will also take action through the Labor Standards Office to remove anyone who is harmful to the company. The color drained from Merrick's face completely as he realized the gravity of the situation. I continued, explaining how Sienna had been working behind the scenes, visiting clients, and successfully promoting the new company. Most of our clients had already decided to switch to the new venture, and many employees were planning to follow suit. That's impossible, Merrick shouted, his voice breaking. I'll sue you. Before he could continue, the chairman intervened once again, speaking calmly but decisively. You don't have the authority to do that, Merrick. I am the representative director here, not you. Merrick collapsed to his knees, overwhelmed by the weight of his mistakes. A mixture of regret, disappointment, and finality filled the room. It's unfortunate that it had to end this way, Mr. President, I said, my voice steady. If you had taken the opportunity to change your approach when you returned, things could have been different. You had many chances to learn, but in the end, you squandered them. This is simply the consequence of your actions. In the aftermath, the chairman decided to close down the company entirely, leaving Merrick unemployed. As for Merrick's wife, she tried to pursue her idea of selling corrective underwear, but the business failed miserably. Their aggressive sales tactics got them into legal trouble, and both were eventually arrested for their involvement in a pyramid scheme. When Sienna returned to her parents' home, she found boxes of unsold underwear, a sad reminder of their failed venture. As for their daughter, she found a job elsewhere, though I never heard much more about her after that. As for me, I found happiness working at Sienna and the site manager's new company. Surrounded by people I trust and care about, I now live my life with authenticity and purpose, cherishing the relationships that truly matter.